Resonance is amplification and enrichment of tones produced by the voice, but any instrument resonates. Okay, that's the quality of the sound it gets from the structure of the instrument. For instance, a piano has, underneath the strings, it has something called a soundboard. The soundboard is the resonator. If you didn't have a soundboard, you wouldn't be able to hear the piano. Flutes and recorders resonate in their little wooden tubes or over phones. But when we talk about resonance, we're talking about singing with fullness and space. Okay, without resonance, we produce a thin sound. Okay, very thin, small sound, like some little kids. The tone we're looking for, and I use this little image. A lot of what we do with singing is imagery, because we can't see what's going on. We use our imagination. It should be like a diamond on a black velvet pillow with brilliance, sparkle, and projection of a diamond, and the warmth, richness, and body and texture of the black velvet. Okay. Sounds good, you say. What are the things that produce the resonance? Well, the pharynx, the primary resonator, the area behind the mouth that extends down into the throat and up into the nasal area. In other words, the open throat. The throat is the principal resonating chamber. The nasal cavities. You have these nasal cavities and sinuses in your head that also help with resonance. And of course your mouth, the space in your mouth. Okay? To sum this up, we want as much of your body vibrating as we can get when you sing. The more of you that's vibrating and resonating, the better, the warmer, the richer, the more powerful the sound will be, without actually having to work at creating a powerful sound. And so you always err on the side of openness. An open, relaxed throat. This begins with a relaxed jaw and a relaxed tongue and no tension in the neck muscles. Everything hanging loose. Remember we talked, those of you who were here for the articulation lesson, the diction lesson. The articulators of speech are the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. The jaw is not an articulator, it just hangs. It's a conveyance for those. So open and relaxed. One part of that body that we want to really focus on is what's called the soft palate, which is that area behind the hard palate, which we can actually lift, which is in the roof of your mouth, and we can actually create more space in our mouth by lifting a little bit here and thinking of like what we call an inside smile. Like you're trying to not smile, keeping your lips together, but you feel that. And even lifting your eyes a little bit creates that bigger space inside. So soft palate. Another way of thinking about it is a little bit of a lift right here. A small lift, not real tense, just like a little bit of a look of disdain. That helps lift a little bit. Okay, lifting the cheeks, as it were. If we don't focus on creating that inside smile, if we use the same position as when we're speaking, we don't get the fullness out of our voice that we want. So I'm not going to go through all of these examples, but I will talk about resonance and imagination. Imagination, using imagery is what we have to do all the time in teaching. When I tell people, when breathing, think of your sound here, and you're lifting the sound on a cushion of air up into the air like that. Okay? What does that do? What does that image do for us? Well, it usually makes us want to breathe out a little bit more as we go. Exhale. So it's all about imagery. And I already talked a little bit about the inside smile. Another way of thinking about it is yawning, but yawning up. feeling yourself open. If I stood here long enough and did this, I bet I could convince you to do that, to start yawning. Some of you might. Yeah. I can do it all the time with my students. It's hilarious. As soon as I start doing that, but that yawning up creates space. It's all about space inside here. Now, it's not about the opening. Okay, we never want to sing like this. In fact, one of the students I talked to this week who's not here kept spreading this way, and we don't want to do that. The mouth should be north-south, not east-west. East-west is bad, because east-west is tense, and your sound goes splat. Okay? North-south, which means dropping the jaw and creating that space. So, let's see here. Close your mouth, but not your teeth. Do this. Put your lips together, but your teeth apart. Smile as though you were smiling at someone across the room. A smile you don't want others to really notice. Do you feel the space in there when you do that? With your lips together and your teeth apart? There's your inside smile. You'll feel a little bit of lift in your face. And if you do this often enough, it'll make you yawn again. So, one of my teachers said to me, I was so blessed to study with such a magnificent teacher. She was head of the opera program at Penn State. And she said, feel all the time like you're ready to break into a yawn when you're singing. You want to be open. Err on the side of openness. Now there's some exercises we can do to help with that. Okay? I want you to take your fingertips and gently start massaging your temples. You know, just massage all along your temples. Okay? And then I want you to take your fingers and put them right here at where your jaw hinge is. And just let your mouth drop open and just massage that area. Okay, just let that jaw hang, doing nothing. And as you're doing that, make sure your tongue is just touching the back of your teeth, doing nothing. Just hanging. Okay, and if we do this a while, you're going to want to start to yawn again. Now I want you to massage underneath your chin. And as you're doing this, feel your tongue hanging. Okay. Now, with your face down, I want you to roll your head from side to side. Keep that jaw hanging there. It's just, you just can't close it, it's hanging. Then just let your head hang down there and your jaw loose like you've fallen asleep in your favorite easy chair. Now if you do this a while, one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to start to drool. You will, because when you keep your mouth open like this, the saliva starts being manufactured right away. Okay? And so, that's why singers have to stop every now and then, swallow, if they're staying open, because there's that extra saliva buildup. But this space is important. Now, having said that, having worked on getting this open, the thing we must not do is sing from the throat. We have to sing the sound like it's coming out of the top of our head or our cheekbones. When I get everything resonating, I'll use something simple like a litany response. Lord have mercy. There's everything resonating. I mean, I can feel it right here. I can feel it here. I can feel it everywhere. Everything's resonating, and I'm staying very, very relaxed. But I'm thinking of that sound out here with a little bit of that kind of teenager whine. Aw, don't have to. Lord have mercy. Up and out. That's where the sound goes. Always. This is a truism. 100% of the time you sing up and out. That is especially important if you are singing a descending melodic line. Because if you sing down a descending melodic line, what's going to happen? Flat. Boom. Right away. Absolutely. And in our chant, we have a lot of them end with descending melodic lines. A lot of them end on the syllable T. Okay? Instead of, like music we hear, it always comes back to do, and that's the end. A lot of ours end right below do. And if we sing down to T, well, T is going to go flat and end up being more like K, which actually is flatter than that. So we have to sing up always. Open, up, and think of this coming out of your face right here. The singers call this area of their face the mask. The mask. Now, I'm going to skip around here a little bit. I want you to look at the illustrations here. And these funny illustrations. Now, illustration 1, it says, repeat a note progressively, matching the space and size you see below. So actually the first 1, 2, 3, 4 of these ahs are not going to be entirely correct until you get to the last one. So you think real small. Ah, 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 ah. Now, yes, they got louder, but they didn't get louder so much because I was trying to make them louder. They got louder because I was opening as I went through. I started pretty closed. And by the end, I let that jaw release, and I had everything resonating. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you're singing softly or loudly. You still want to be resonating. Doesn't matter. You still have to stay open. So, start with a real kind of closed. Okay, did you hear that? Pinched, small. Now a little bit bigger. Now a little bit bigger. Now you're dropping your jaw even more as you go. Now you're really dropping it to its fullest. Okay. Did you feel a progressive kind of kicking in of more resonance as you went? Some of you are nodding, some of you are looking at me puzzled.
It tickles your nose less when you open.
Well, yes, but you still want to feel a little bit of tickling going on in here too, even when you're way up. Yeah, right in here, or some, people are different. I have students who really feel it more useful to think of the sound coming out of their forehead, almost. They get it placed that way. Resonance is also what we typically talk about in a voice lesson as placement. We are placing the sound. And this is an important concept. Now, if you look at the second one, the vowel tunnel, typically when we say ooh, we're kind of small. O, we open up a little bit more. E, we close down. We open, and finally the biggest one is ah. So I want everybody to say just a long ooh.
Ooh.
Not so big, is it? Not so big. Even the opening's smaller, yes, but you're not quite as open. Oh.
Oh.
More open, right?
Yes.
Now say E.
E.
E is smaller, isn't it? Now it's open. Okay, now finally, a big satisfied, like it's cooler today. Ah. There we go. That's the space. So every vowel you sing, you want to sing through your ah space. And that's what the second one is. It says to match your resonance, all your vowels need to be produced in the ah space. Ah, O. To match the resonance, all in the ah space. Another way of thinking about it, my teacher said to me, she said, ah is the great-granddaddy of all the vowel sounds. Okay, so ah is at the top, and everything you sing, you think of ah. Even a vowel like E. Most people go E, like this. E is from the back of the throat, so E needs space. E, E. If I sing E, you hear it? Pinch.
Honk, honk.
Yep, pinch, and we don't want pinch. Okay, so when we gather for our individual sections, I'm going to talk a lot about placement, and it's one of these things that when I hear each of you sing, is one of those things that a voice teacher has to do kind of on the fly, you know, by evaluating where you are, and some of you may do this very naturally, some others may need a little bit more help with it, and so I'll be throwing various images and things at you to try to help you get the most out of your resonance. But I would encourage you to go to the website and read through this course, but just know that hopefully within 6 months or so, I'm going to be revising portions of it to try to make it more streamlined. Give you the same thrust, but a little bit more streamlined. But when Jeff told me to write a curriculum, I went, oh, a curriculum for voice? You know, and I got all these books from famous voice teachers this thick about teaching voice. I went, okay, now how do we boil this down? So I'm going to think about it and boil it down some more. But as it is, read through it. But again, as I've said through all these, if you have the means and the opportunity and you can find a qualified voice teacher, there's no substitute for it. Because they are standing out here listening to you, and they are objective, and they can hear what's going on in a way that you can't inside here. In fact, you'll hear me say in your lessons, as far as the sound we make, the resonance, the timbre, we don't listen to ourselves. The only thing a singer listens for is pitch. The rest must be done by feeling, by sensation. Because if you listen to yourself, you're going to do funny things, because what sounds good inside your head may sound totally ridiculous outside. Right? So that's why you don't listen to the sound, you feel it. And sometimes when we get somebody really resonating well, the sound inside the head is not quite as pleasant as we would like. You know, my teacher said, I want you to look at me and say, that? You want that sound? And because again, you're hearing it from inside, I'm hearing it from out here. So anybody have any questions about any of these topics? Yes?
When you record yourself and listen to that back, are you somewhat biased, do you think? In what, like, I mean, you know, I know a voice teacher would be better, but just in terms of making a recording and hearing, you know what I mean?
Well, recording yourself is a very useful tool.
Okay.
And I would encourage you to record yourself singing at liturgy. I would encourage you to record yourself practicing. But here's my little piece of advice.
Okay.
Don't record it and listen to it right away. Record it, maybe wait a day, and then sit down and listen to it. Okay, you need to give yourself a little distance from the act of producing the music until you can evaluate it, okay? So, but recording is absolutely a very useful thing. You can buy a little digital recorder for $20 that gives incredible fidelity today. Even a lot of cell phones do really remarkably well with recording. So yes, it's a very useful tool for any musician.
I would suggest that video with sound is better than just sound, because when you have the video, you can see, oh, I was clenching my jaw here.
That's true. If you can manage a video recording, absolutely. Yeah, because then you can see yourself. Also, if you have a full-length mirror in your house, talk about humbling things, a full-length mirror, stand in front of it and practice. It'll reveal things to you about your posture, about what you may be doing that you're not quite aware that you're doing. I mean, what's remarkable about really, really fine professional singers, what's remarkable about them is the absolute control they have over their body. I mean, not just their vocal mechanism, but their entire body. They are in control. And that control, that level of control takes years to develop it. But with good, beginning with some good habits, and making sure that every time you open your mouth to sing, no matter what it is, that you're thinking about those habits and trying to develop them, you will, over time, all this stuff will become second nature to you.
Shawn, I'd ask you a little few guidelines for daily practice. What would you recommend? I mean, what sort of schedule should you try and shoot for?
Okay, daily practice, that's a good idea. Yeah, certainly warm up. Okay, always start with some gentle warm-ups. And lesson 2 on the website, lesson 2 talks about warm-ups. Gentle humming. Talking, but not just talking like we would normally. You know, just little things like when I go to church, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know, I start warming up with some extended talking. How are you? That sort of thing. Because you got to get those vocal cords loosened up and get all that morning phlegm out of there. And then do some humming. Anybody can hum. Anybody can hum. Just use your inside smile. Keep your lips together and your teeth apart. Simple little patterns. You know, that's so fa mi re do. A warm-up need not be complicated. It just and you will find as you go a warm-up method that works for you. Okay, you'll find it that you feel like, wow, when I finish that, I feel like I'm ready to sing. And do some physical stretches like we did if you can. And then for daily practice, one of my admonitions in this course is that as you are learning the music in the Green Book or the Blue Book in your case, even though you may have heard it 1,000 times, treat it like it's something new. In other words, treat every portion of the Divine Liturgy as you're developing your new vocal habits like it is something you've never heard before. Practice it from a fresh perspective. You know, don't just say, oh, well, I know that. I don't have to practice that. I mean, well, I won't say resurrection tone. Tone 1, a tone 1 Sunday. I never walk in and sing tone 1 without having sung it at least once or twice. Even though I've sung tone 1 a gajillion times, I practice it. Somebody said to me something about how accurately I sing, and it's not because I'm such a wonderful musician, it's because I've worked my butt off with this Green Book. I would take little bits of this Green Book when it first came out and just practice it and practice it and practice it. And so a little bit of daily practice is great. Practice, find spots in your book that you find especially problematic and take them apart. Maybe practice one phrase of that at a time and then do the next phrase until you can do it very easily. For people who are currently cantoring, have a strategic plan in place. For instance, we have some big feast days coming up. We have Transfiguration, Dormition, Nativity of the Mother God, Holy Cross, Exposition of Holy Cross. There are some Magnification and Emosi coming up in those very special, specific parts. Be sure that you are looking ahead in your practicing to the next feast day, saying, oh boy, you know what? Transfiguration's coming up, I better practice that Magnification and Ermos. So I'll start practicing it 2 or 3 weeks before. There's really no substitute for it, and you're all nodding your head, thank goodness, because I have said this to cantors, to people who call themselves cantor, who I've heard sing and not do so well, and I said, well, did you practice that? And they looked at me, practice? How dare you? I don't need to practice. Yes, you do. And part of your practice too, Jeff didn't say this specifically, but he was talking about how the music is in the service of the words. Take these prayers and read them. Read them aloud. Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us. Read them like you are really investing them with meaning, like you really mean it. And then go back and sing them, and you'll be surprised at what that does for the quality of your singing. The words must be clear and vital. Those words have to reach out and grab the faithful. So that's another thing to do in your practicing. Read this book. Read the Troparia for a day. It's amazing how many people sing them and then they get through and they don't remember exactly what the Troparia is because they've never really read it. They just sing it. But warm up, physical warm up, vocal warm up, practice trouble spots, and have a strategic plan for what's coming down the pike.
Time frame, 20 minutes as a beginner.
As a beginner, 20 minutes is sufficient. I would even say maybe just 15. Don't go home and practice an hour at once. And then, yes?
One of the things that we don't talk about a lot, but which is very important, are some basic core body exercises, because a good note is a supported note.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have no abdominal muscles whatsoever, you can't support a note.
Mm-hmm.
I had to sing a funeral after I had a baby. When I didn't, there was nothing connected anymore. And the only reason I got through that funeral was because I was violently keeping to good vocal hygiene. But under ordinary circumstances, the fitter you are in this lump that I call my waist, in the abdomen, the better you'll be able to support a note.
True. And in the breathing session, I do give some exercises for that. And anything you can do to strengthen the core muscles is very good. Very good thing to do. Because yes, you must support it with air. And these muscles are what moves that air all the time. So yes. But yeah, 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. And because our best, even 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, sometimes our best practicing is done in a little short burst like that. And then we go do something else and then come back and do more later. So.
Believe it or not, when I was in the Army, I was a drill sergeant. And so I would have to project my voice during cadences or during big assemblies for 200 to 300 people. And it was very interesting. They had classes very similar to what you're talking about, and how to project your voice and to use your diaphragm. And so, and the core parts of your mouth.
Resonance, yeah.
The resonance. And it was, so it's very interesting that the same thing, so.
Actors take classes like this for the theater, even those that don't sing. Yes, to project, because you have to know, and public speaking courses often do this,
Yes.
because you have to know how to project without really screaming from the throat, which is a very bad thing.
Yes, because initially, to sing with the men, I was hoarse.
Sure.
My first cycle of being a drill sergeant. But after that, once I got the hang of it, it was much easier, and I didn't have to
Yeah.
work so hard at all.
Which highlights a thing about the voice. We make this artificial distinction between our speaking voice and our singing voice, and it's one voice.
Yes.
And so if you have bad habits in speech, very often they'll carry over into your singing.
Mhm.
So that's a very important point, very important point.
Most North Americans don't know how to breathe.
No, they don't. Yeah, I mean, in working with some of the singers this week, you know, a couple of them would try to sing a whole tropar in one breath and say, breathe, breathe, there's a bar line there, breathe. So, yeah, that's true. Any other questions or concerns or anything?